Go ahead.
Meeting called to order. Today is Thursday, April 13th. It is now 6:32 p.m. Town Council for a public hearing for 2018 budget.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilman Messier? Councilman Padula?
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico?
Here.
Council President Goslin?
Here.
There is a quorum.
Did you just say Jay Ness? Did you say Councilman Ness?
Yes.
Sounds like he's walking in. Yep. For the record, Councilman Messier just arrived.
Councilman Messier?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Deduct 3 minutes late.
Just to go over everything, the budget you have in front of you is the revised budget with the $727,720 cuts that we made on Tuesday night. That leaves us with, John, are the confirmed numbers 1.8% at 1.8?
What I'm actually going to hand over right now is the tax disclosure sheet that we do. It actually gives the individual rates associated with the document in front of you. It shows the actual tax levy increase and the rate change, as well as the new rates, should the council decide to go with what is in this document.
And should you decide to distribute it evenly?
Correct.
Right. Or no, there was a slight adjustment,
No, it's
right?
even.
Even?
It's even.
Thanks, John.
Here, Andy, this one.
Yep.
So what they're talking about for the new councilman, once the budget's voted on, we set the levy, but we can actually adjust. So say, for instance, you want single family at no tax increase, you'd have to adjust the other rates to make up that amount. There's a certain percentage you cannot go over.
It's a 4% levy cap.
Yeah.
Cannot exceed 4% in total. What this schedule I just distributed is actually a disclosure statement that the state of Rhode Island requires that we provide prior to the financial town meeting with the rate disclosure that also goes to the public. And what this does is it checks to make sure that it's under that 4% cap. So you'll see there's a number there that happens to show FY17 levy at 4%. If it went to the full 4%, that's how much revenue would actually be generated, or how much the tax levy would be. And this just shows that we're $1 million under what that cap is, for $938,000. So again, that's just a disclosure to the state, but I use the same document to help explain and provide the rates to the council, so that you have the different rates for each of the categories, as well as the assessments and the levies for each of the categories that Dave mentioned.
Any questions for John on that? So we can go, but anybody here from the public for the public hearing, actually? Just Bert?
We only allow people under 10 years old, I guess. John.
So the question I have
right.
is, yes, you have department heads that are taxpayers, I understand, but you're also here because you're a department head. You'd probably be home too if you weren't a department head. And Rainey, Kutu in the back, thank you. Just to go over something real quick, this does entail a 1.83% tax increase. So the question I have, do you want me to go page by page again tonight, or do you have anything specific that you want to go back to? Because I don't think I have to waste our time. There's a couple of small little things that Fred and I talked about, a $600 item that we can go over in a few minutes. Other than that, does anybody have, do you want to go over page by page, or do you have anything specific, or do you want to leave it where it is? Jason?
I don't think there's anything else to cut. I looked over this the other night, and we're bare bones. It is what it is. We're asking people to do more with less all the time, no matter if you're in the clerk's department, if you're in the fire department, the police department. And I also don't agree with the tax increase. Because I know the people on the other side can't afford it. Whether you're a business or a homeowner, you just can't do it. So it is what it is, and I don't really see going back over and over this again and again, because there's nothing left to cut. I do think that our hands are tied as a council when I looked at this thinking of focusing on the now, but also thinking 2, 3, 4 years down the road when the department heads are going to advocate for similar things because that's their job to do, but the money still isn't there. So, and I personally don't know how to fix that. I really think it's a start over. You know, I've been thinking, I've heard a lot about, I take in a lot of what Dave says, having been on the council for a long time, along with Angelo. And I personally feel, I think Angelo makes a good point. Let's get an expert in here. If we need 2 clerks in the clerk's office or 10 clerks in the clerk's office, at least we'll know, we'll start from scratch, and that's it. You know, I think I have nothing against the unions. You know, I understand their side. I understand people wanting raises. I don't blame them. I would want a raise too. But it's not there. So when the time comes in 3 years from now, when they want a raise, and they're all going to, which there's no question, it's not there. So I think we need to really open up all contracts again and see what happens. So let the people vote on it. If they vote on the budget, they vote. They vote yes, they vote yes. They vote no, they vote no. And that's it. It's pretty cut and dry.
As a council, I feel like especially for the new ones, myself, John, and Jay, we've kind of been handed like a bag of horse manure, and we're supposed to do something with it we're incapable of doing. You know, I wanted a new EMS officer. I would have loved to give raises to the people at the library, but I mean, looking at it, there was no way we could do that. You know, we've been here for 4 months. I think even prior to you gentlemen being here, I feel like there was a lot of incompetence that like we're kind of left with now. So, like Jay said, I don't know if there's one specific answer.
Well, what it comes down to, Jay, is we all were in your shoes. And you have to go from what's right and from what's wrong, and you have to go what's sustainable and what's unsustainable. And it's all common sense. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that this is not going to work. The 5-year plan tied our hands. It gave false hopes for our employees. It gave false hopes to our citizens. People are moving out. Businesses can't afford it anymore. We're making our property values go lower and lower every time we raise taxes because we went from 12th to 5th and on our way to 4th. People are not going to want to come in. Growth is not happening. And if you get growth 1 year, what happens the year after or the year after that? You only have so much growth that this town is capable of handling. There's not where, I use for instance Coventry, where they have thousands of acres. They can give the property away just to get it on the tax rolls. Advertise in Boston, New York, free property, just put up a building. Put us on the tax rolls. We don't have that caveat. We can't do it. And me being a business owner myself, and people say, oh, it's only $60. Well, $60 with this. Well, people are just about making ends meet. I remember when I was president, I had, and I'm not going to mention the union that did it, and it wasn't any one of you here now. I was mentioning that an elderly lady that lives in my district was 98 years old, and her pension was $500 a month, and her taxes were $500 a month. And I said, I went to her house because one of the neighbors called me. She didn't have any heat in her boiler. And she was sitting in her rocking chair with a light bulb, a 100-watt light bulb, wrapped up in a blanket. And when I said that, they giggled. They thought it was a joke. That stuck in my head till this day, how ignorant that them people that were in this room that night, not having the courtesy or the feelings what that person was going through. That's what we know of. I understand everybody, I know I have nothing against our employees. They do a great job. You hear from employees that certain ones that work harder than others. You know what? We don't work that fast when you get a new employee in. We do it slow. You know, you have that percentage, whether it's police, fire, municipal, school. You got the bad apples in the group that are here just for the money, which they want the money, but they don't have a vested interest in this town. And me, probably out of anybody on this council or anybody in this room, I lived in this town longer than anybody and had the most generations being in business. It hits me in the heart because I know deep down inside, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, this is unsustainable. It was unsustainable. I understand where some of them came from, that they had to make a plan to stop the state from coming in. Did we do good? No. Is it going to continue to do good? No. Is it going to come to an end? Yes. It's unsustainable. So no matter what anybody thinks, there's not going to be no raises. There's going to be tax increases all the time. You people are sitting there, the pensions are unsustainable. You're gonna end up sooner or later down the road, you're gonna end up losing a piece of your pension, if not most of it. And I don't care what anybody says, get the experts in here, they are the experts. We're working on a kicking a can down the road to where there's no relief. No relief. We can't sustain the way we're going. So I'm totally against this budget because of the tax increase. I know there's no other cuts that we can make because it's contractual. We shouldn't have been in this position, but we are, and we're not going it's unsustainable. So everybody else can think what they want to think. They can say, you know, Angelo says this, Angelo says that, but someday you're going to say, you know what? That guy was right, and it's going to be too late. You have to fix it. Everybody has to get together and fix this. And the only way we're going to fix it, if the people want that increase and 500 people come out and vote for it, sooner or later they're going to knock this budget down, and then we got to go.
I don't think it's that anybody wants it. Nobody wants a tax increase. But what's the other option right now for this budget in front of us that we have? What's the other option?
I just told you, our hands are tied.
Exactly. Yeah. So so to be against
So no matter what you do on this, we're going to court. So it's unrealistic if we go any lower.
Where I will agree with you is long term. I mean, how many years can we do this where we're just playing?
You're gonna do it forever.
We're
Well, one
shuffling.
thing I'll disagree with Councilman Padula on, the 5-year plan was never established to be the panacea to solve all the problems. It was established to get us started down the road to correcting the sins of the past, is what it was done. And it was known that when we start renegotiating again for the next round and the next 5 years, there's got to be more concessions, because he's right, it's not sustainable as it is now, but it's a hell of a lot more sustainable than it was before we started this process.
Fred, correct me if
And-
I'm wrong.
yep.
You know, he's talking about bringing in experts. We brought in Nyhart. We spent a lot of money on
Well,
Nyhart.
Nyhart
Not that
is an
kind of
actuary.
thing.
He's talking about bringing in a consultant that will look
I'm
at
bringing in-
what do we need based upon our population and size for police force, for fire department, for, all of our
Feasibility
services.
of everything we have.
And that's something we can certainly do, which I said last time. If that's something the council wants to do, we can certainly move forward with that, and it's probably prudent to do so.
I don't know if anybody else has done this in the past 2 days, but I did listen to Angelo. I did go on and look at other fire departments, and I think I'm gonna compare it to North Providence, because that's probably the closest in size and population. And, when Angelo says that we're overstaffed, you ready? Chief of the department, assistant chief of department, chief of training and safety, chief emergency medical services, fire marshal, assistant fire marshal, residential smoke detector inspectors, carbon monoxide requirements, director of communications, operation battalion chiefs, 4, which we have. You compare it where we don't have a lot of this here already. We don't have.
How much are
assistant
they in a
chief.
hole, David?
North Providence? I
Yeah.
don't know, Angelo. They're pretty
Well,
much.
you're looking
except
up
for-
into that.
Except for the Google on the police department side.
They bailed out.
Yeah, well, they got a bailout.
And they
Shit,
got a
somebody
bailout.
gave me
That's
$100
why they
million,
can have
I can bail
that.
us out
That's
too.
why they can have that. Don't compare us with
They've
other.
had this their entire history.
And they were in trouble. They were going down the
You're saying
tubes.
that, but you asked.
Don't compare us to them,
You
because you
said
know
compare
what?
it to other fire departments in Rhode Island. You said it here on Tuesday night. So I took the.
But I'm
time
comparing it to
and
people
labor.
who are solvent.
Don't compare it to San Diego. I can't compare it to San Diego. I'm comparing it to
You
Rhode
know
Island.
what I'm comparing it to? What's coming out of my pocket and all my constituents that I
Angelo, but
walk
that's
door to
not what you
door.
said the other
I
day.
walk door to door, like I said to you. You can get 5 high school kids to sit here, let's just get up. Because every one of them can say, oh, you know what? We need 300,000. We need 3 million.
But
We're
Angelo-
going to raise the taxes.
Angelo, when you sit there and you keep throwing stuff out of your mouth all the time, and
Yeah.
a lot of it's fiction and not
Fiction.
facts.
Fiction.
You're saying
We
North
went from
Providence-
14 highest taxes in the state to 4. What's fiction?
But Angelo, you're
Let's
saying
fix it,
we're
David.
But you're sitting here saying we're overstaffed.
I said
in our
we
fire
might be
department.
overstaffed, let's get a professional in, because obviously we're
I
doing
can
the
agree
sins,
with you, but
we're
when I
doing the
take-
sins of the past.
When I take the time to go look at other fire departments, you want to say, no, that's not
Listen,
the right one.
but just
I can
see-
give you 10, and
See
you're
how
not going
much,
to be happy
see
with it.
how much they're gonna be in the hole, how much they're not. Did you look at South Kingston? Did you look at West Greenwich?
South Kingston, you
Did
can't
you look
compare
at
South
North
Kingston to West Warwick.
Okay, then don't compare anybody to West Warwick. I'm not gonna argue with you,
Angelo,
but you know
you
what?
sit here
Be
and say
alive, and
compare.
you're one of them that never seen a tax that you didn't like.
Oh, yeah, Angelo, I'm so happy about my taxes, $4,800.
Then let's do something about it.
$7,000. I'm so happy about
Let's
it.
do something about it.
I know
Do
what my
that times
taxes
10.
were. My taxes, when I got my house
Listen,
in...
I'm not here to argue with you.
$4,800.
I'm just gonna tell you, I made a promise, I took an oath to take care of the citizens of this town and the employees of this town, and I'm gonna do what's best for
I'm
them.
just
I'm a
saying-
businessman. I don't go in on a Friday and get paid Saturday. I gotta work for what I make, and I know what it's like to get it on the private sector.
But Angelo,
So that's what I'm
when
gonna
you're sitting
end.
here spewing stuff out of your mouth,
And it's the truth.
right? Not everything's the truth.
Almost everything
I
is the
say about
truth.
50%.
Well, then that's your opinion.
Because I don't think
the other
employees
opinion
here,
you
wait a
got
minute,
is right.
you said something earlier. You said the employees were false, misinformed. Whatever.
They were misinformed.
How are they misinformed?
Because
$10
they
million
think they're going to
is
get a
going into their
raise.
pension.
They think they're going to get a raise. Does anybody in here think
They
they're
didn't
going to
think
get a
they were
raise
getting
in
a
3
raise.
years? You don't think you're getting a raise? You think you know you're never going to get a raise? Did you know that?
I knew we weren't gonna get a raise this time.
Did you know? Do you think you're going to get one next time or the time after? You're not getting it. Bet your life the way it's going, you're not getting anything.
John, what do you think? You're kind of a sandwich right there.
This is
Yeah.
a great place to be. I'm worried about
No,
heart
it's not,
attacks
John.
here. You guys need to take a breath.
No, we argue. We'll
I
argue.
know,
We argue
I
for
know,
11 years.
I know. I've watched
I
it
got
for-
my
I've
opinions.
watched it for a
I know
number
what
of
I'm doing
years.
for my constituents, and I'm going to continue doing it for my constituents.
Here's what I think. First of all, I agree with a lot of what's being said. If we continue on this path, we've had losses this year. We haven't had the growth that we expected, that we hoped for. It wouldn't be sustainable. But I tend to be a little bit more optimistic. And I've been in business 20 years. I've been a business owner, not in West Warwick, but a business owner. And I've been up and I've been down. When I look around West Warwick, I actually see potential. I mean, I sat in that audience for 6 years, and I watched a lot of different changes. And we were on the brink of receivership. The state was ready to come in. I attended all of those meetings. Things were bad. And I saw a lot of hard work done and a lot of concessions made by a lot of good people. And I feel like the ship was righted. And I feel like we're moving in a positive direction. It's not a perfect direction, and it's going to fall off course to some degree. But we have good leadership. We have smart people running things. We need growth, and I know that is slow, Angelo. I know
You're not
it's
gonna get any
slow.
growth.
I don't believe that. I think we will. I think
How much growth do you have in this town, John?
I'm saying that it's going to take time.
Listen,
They're not going to be
give it all the
building
time you
overnight.
want, fill up the town. How much growth can we get? Then what happens when the growth runs out? How many condos can you build?
Okay,
Well, we have quite a
you
few
will
going
run
in.
out, but look what's in the hopper. Okay?
And we're
I got-
not gonna keep up with that.
We got 27 condos going off of North Pleasant Street. Average of $3,000 to $4,000, more than that, $4,000 for each one. There's $100K right there, just on North Pleasant Street.
green
Those-
better talk
and the
100
foundations are
million.
going in. Don't say it's not happening.
I'm not
Okay?
saying it's not
We have
happening.
2 stores, Dollar General and Dollar Store, looking to come into West Warwick. Yeah, when you're sitting there saying this place is a dump and we're not gonna make anything.
I didn't say it was a dump. Don't put words in my mouth.
Okay, not a dump. No
Wait-
growth, it's gonna be bankrupt, it's gonna be down the hill, and
You
nobody
lost
can
West
sustain
Valley
anything.
Inn. You lost the Villa.
Yep.
You lost,
But those are opportunities.
you
to rebuild.
lost, what's its name
Rock's
that
Produce.
just moved out? Rock's Produce. You're losing this. So you know what? If them businesses don't go back in there, they're not paying any tangibles. They're not paying this. So you know what? When you move 3 businesses in and 7 businesses are moving out, we got a problem.
Well, I think we need to be a little more business friendly on certain levels. I think we need to reassess that.
But Jay, let's be business friendly. I agree with you.
But if we can do
have
that,
to
I mean,
be
that's
business
gonna bring in
friendly.
direct
But you know
economic
what?
impact.
Are you going to move a business into town when you're 4th highest taxes in the state?
Well,
Come on. Come on. Are you? I have people calling me every day on the West Valley Inn. What's the tax
Well, I mean, that's
rate?
why we have
Look
that's
it
why
up.
that's,
Angelo,
that's why we have the
are you
Arctic.
kidding me?
That's why we have the
You might
Arctic
be right on the
redevelopment.
property tax. Take a look at tangible. Take a look at car tax, which might eventually go away. And take a look at sewer tax. Those are 3 reasons why people would move in here. We are one of the lowest in the state in sewer tax.
Because
are-
we're keeping it down, we're not overexpending
All the
ourselves.
years that we kept it down, it's coming back to bite us now.
No, it's not.
It
It's
bit us
not
last
biting us.
year, Angela. Look
It's
how much
not-
money they had to change and raise in extra revenue. Everybody's house saw $128 or more. These multifamily houses and all these condos, these high rises.
And who's
saw
using the water?
$128 per unit.
Who's using the
But
water?
Angela, what I'm saying is, you support
You pay for what you use.
But all the years we didn't raise there, and guess what? It
And we're
came
not
back
gonna
to
raise
bite us.
again.
Well, you
We're not gonna
raised.
raise again.
Well, because you raised it $128 per household.
I didn't get any increase, did you?
No, yes, actually, my well has gone. I'm paying $550 for it. Nobody knows how much water I use. So I get a flat rate.
I think you should be paying more. We ought to send Bernie down there to see what the usage really is, put a meter.
Well, you can put the meter in for free, and I'll be more than happy because I'll be paying less every 2 years.
No, you won't.
I guarantee I will. My 2-family house doesn't get that. I know what I use in water.
Listen, I'm not
$84
gonna argue.
every quarter.
I know. I've been a businessman, a successful businessman, that I can't do anymore. Not only one business, I have vested businesses that I have 7 or 8. And I'm not exaggerating on that. And I told you, I moved one to Warwick that I have a vested interest in, and one to Narragansett, and I can't keep up with them 2. They're keeping me alive to steal from Peter to pay Paul here. And I'm not paying that much. But with the state, my car taxes, what I pay in my dealership is a couple $100,000 a year. So everybody's in your pocket. The grid's in your pocket. The oil man's in your pocket. The Cox is in your pocket. The town's in our pocket. The state's in our pocket. I don't have a problem with them, with me sharing with them. But when I lose, kick into me. It's only one way, ain't it? And no matter what anybody says, they can talk, scream. Angelo's out of his mind. Angelo said this. Angelo said that. I'm telling you,
Angelo,
in 10 years,
I'm not.
you're going to know that and I'm trying to get rid of the more property, and I got a couple for sale now with the trust that are going up for sale. My business is up for sale. I can't compete anymore. And the last thing to go will be our family homes.
Angelo, I'm not sitting here saying I disagree with everything you're saying. But some of it has. I do disagree. You're saying the 5-year plan is basically useless.
It's useless.
And I'm going to tell you what. Mr. Six Flags that was sitting upstairs when you were president here was useless because he wanted to bankrupt this town.
No,
That's,
he didn't.
yes,
You know,
he
you
did. He
guys
did
all took
nothing
it
here,
wrong.
Angelo.
Listen,
he
the
did
reason.
this.
Listen,
He did,
I don't know.
The only thing he did is he
I
drove
don't
back
care.
and forth to Michigan
You know what?
every month.
Yeah,
So
you
you
know
know
what?
what? We had
We
to
had
step
other
in.
people.
We had to do what we had to do.
He
And
didn't
you know
wanna
what?
bankrupt.
We put it on the backs of the taxpayers
I was
and
in
the backs of
contact
the
with him.
employees in this.
I'm not
town.
saying, yeah, of course.
We-
And the employees ain't going to get anything.
And unfortunately, that's the only backs we have.
Listen, you could have opened up, and you could have made one time where this knew that it was going to be a fix. Anybody in this town would know if it was a certain amount of money and we're going to fix the problems, this is kicking it down the road. So in 10 years, whether you're 35% or 55% higher, your property values are diminishing. It's worth nothing. Nothing. And that's what we're doing to the people in this town that try to keep property here, that invested in this town. We're diminishing all their assets to nothing.
Well, I'll
So-
tell you what, it must be a good time to sell because I know 3 people who tried to buy houses in West Warwick, put bids on them. They put the bid in for the exact amount they're asking and they got denied because it went to somebody else for higher. So it
And
must
I'm
be a
seeing-
good time to sell
I
if
don't
you're
know.
gonna sell.
Maybe
I'm
in-
seeing
maybe
that
So
in
make
my
sure you get it
neighborhood.
all up for
I'm
sale
seeing that.
now.
I'm seeing houses go up for sale, and people are looking at those houses, and they're interested in
Well,
those
then
houses.
you guys got to play the game the way you think you're playing it.
Got 2 on my street up for sale, be gone by June.
And just to clarify for the new council members too, if we hadn't done the 5-year plan, the state would have come in, they would have established the budget committee, which the council president would have had a seat at that, the manager would have had a seat, but we would have been the minority. We would have lost all fiscal control. If you look at where they did that in East Providence, Woonsocket, and Central Falls.
Right. Only if we could have
Let me
did
finish,
business
just
with
let me
the,
finish,
with the
just let me
employees.
finish, let me finish.
We listen
They
to each
all
other.
saw supplemental tax increase of 10% plus. That was just year 1. What is that going to do to the businesses and the taxpayers in this town? If they come in, you're right, they'll fix it. But it's gonna cost us. And then, when it's all said and done, you get a bill. Central Falls has a bill for $5 million for that process that they still have to pay back. All right? So it's not all peaches and cream if it goes down the tank. And plus, the town has to live with the stigma of bankruptcy I talk to Mayor Alorza all the time. He said, that's the worst thing I have to deal with on a regular basis, trying to get businesses to come into a town that nationally was renowned for bankruptcy. So you're right, you have a choice. And there's, I get it.
Let me
there's
counter to
pluses
you,
and
Fred.
minuses.
I understand. I agree with you 100%. I agree. What that did was allowed us to open up the contracts and do our dealing, which we have I don't think that any one of us that were on this council had the ability to deal with the professionals that we were dealing with. But if you had the right people dealing and doing it, and they knew, you knew, we had pension people right here that said we'll take a 15-20% hit to make this better. But then it all went away. Now we're going in a direction where, okay, instead of 10% this year and 15% next year and 10% this year, to straighten out the problem once and for all, we're nickel and diming them for 10 years, and it'll be a 30, 40, 50% tax increase, and we're still not selling it.
But that's not true, Angelo.
Well, it's true.
3 years. 3 years, John. What's the tax rate increase over the last 3 years total? Under 6%?
I'd say yes.
And that is below the national average for any community. Because if you're not raising taxes by 2%, CPI,
So in 10 years, how much are
3%.
you getting a tax increase?
10 years.
6% every 3 years. How much tax? 20%?
Well, that's what
And then-
all communities do, Angelo. You have
They
to
don't all
everything.
do it.
The cost,
Look
all
at
costs go
Narragansett.
up.
Look at Warwick. Warwick, Jesus, we're passing Warwick. We're in the tax brackets with Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket.
Full service urban communities. That's right. We're
We're
in the same
with
tax
them.
bracket as them. Well, that's what we are, Angelo.
Listen,
we're
we
full
can
service
argue,
urban
we can
community.
go back and forth all we want. We're not the financial experts. You're not. I'm not. Nobody on this council is a financial expert. Nobody. You need professional help.
But Angelo, let me clarify. You act like we've never done this before. We brought Nyhard in to work on numbers.
And what did
Wait a
Nyhard
minute.
do?
We brought Dolan in to negotiate contracts. We stepped away from negotiating the contracts. Because it wasn't.
And you
it
had
wasn't
Ed
working.
Giroux right here saying it's not enough. Am I right or wrong? Ed Giroux sat right here and said it's not enough.
It's never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. But let me ask you something.
You know
You're
what?
saying you're worried about the employees and they were misinformed and everything else. How much more can an employee take when they're working, when they can go on disability, welfare, and whatever, and make just as much? Because they'll get the health care. They'll get...
Exactly.
Well,
And yet we got $1.2 million in a 8 square mile in overtime on our fire department.
You got a department down here, and Jay agrees. You got 3 guys humping all summer long trying to get a department all squared away. We are running on bare bones in this town.
I'm not denying you that. I'm telling you, you are correct. But they're gonna run less and less on more bare bones. And you know it, and I know it. It's not gonna get better for them, just like it's not gonna get better for the taxpayers. There's no relief in sight. None. And you can think of all the growth that you want to think of. It's going to slap you in the face like it did this year. That's all I got to say.
I have a question.
I'm done.
All right, just so I understand it, 'cause maybe I'm misunderstanding it. We talked a lot about Tuesday night about longevity, which is going to obviously continue to go up and up and up, correct? And overtime seems to be going up and up and up. If it's not regulated, then if it continues to go up next year and the year after, and we cut what, $700 and something thousand off the budget. I'm not saying every year we should be looking to cut, but as that increases, something else has to decrease if we're coming in at 3.75. So my question is, what is going to decrease if the other things that we can't control increase?
Sure. So the reality is, and like I've said from the beginning, those negotiations were step one of the negotiations. The reality is, we have to see more realistic concessions that will reduce the pension liability as a whole. Because right now, the pension liability is based upon everything that's in the contracts today. So you need to change some of those terms to make some of those liabilities go down, and that in turn will reduce our pension payment over time. So in combination with growth, in combination with reducing the liability, that's how you get to a place where hopefully it gets sustainable. It's a long road ahead. We said that from day one. I say it now. We took one step. But the fact is that the 20 years previous to that,
Yeah.
the council ignored tax increases and the council ignored paying the pension liability. There are communities, just like West Warwick, throughout the state, with similar sized staff, very similar pensions, that funded their pension all along the way. They're not in this situation.
So all in all, it's gonna be the people that vote for this.
Yeah.
They're gonna vote yes or they vote no.
Right.
So if the people vote no, then what's gonna happen?
If they vote no, you've got basically one more shot at it. The council can reconvene, say, all right, do we want to cut some more? What do we want to do? Put out another referendum, because we do it in May. You've got until the end of June to wrap this up. So it would be a fast pace, try to get something else before the voters. And if they decline it again, we revert back to last year's budget. And what that means.
Which is still part of the 5-year, like year 2 of the 5-year plan? Is that what you're?
Year three.
We're in year 4.
We'll be going into year 4. So
year
it would
3 to
revert
5.
back to last year's budget amount in terms of
Okay.
taxes. So with that, we would be required to make up the difference. And right now, that's 1 point, what? Between last year and this year,
I
John?
want to say it's about
1.8?
Yeah, close to 2 million.
It's about 1.2 and 1.5, I believe.
So, and you know, based upon the cuts you've already made, you're not going to find that.
Yeah, but the
Right,
things we already
right.
cut won't be there to cut because they weren't
Right.
there last year. So we've cut a lot more.
So what you're going to be looking at doing is trying to come up with ways to do that, and that's going to be layoffs. And I've told every one of the unions that. If this budget doesn't pass, we revert to last year's. The only way to get at those numbers, because we're bound by the contracts to pay the pension. The only way to get to that number is we're going to have to lay people off, which is going to impact services,
Yeah.
which is going to end. And then, in all likelihood, the state will probably intervene, because they'll see it as, you know, we weren't able to fulfill the 5-year plan, so they'll come in and we'll be right where Angela was talking about. So, and then we'll see what happens, because the reality is they can mandate the tax increase. They don't have to get voter approval.
You don't have to get voted. You just took the right
Okay.
away from the voter.
All right. Thank you.
And you're on the line for the bill,
Right.
Well, legal fees and whatever else.
everything.
Let me ask you a question about businesses in the Arctic redevelopment. Their job is to help to bring in businesses, correct, in Arctic. What's the situation with that going on now? I know we were supposed to put together an ordinance for them to try to give them some tax incentives, a scale of tax incentives depending on which business came in. What's the progress on that, on us putting together some ordinance? Because I mean, I think it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not
Yep.
the whole thing, but bringing revenue into the town is a huge piece of
Sure.
it. Because if we had a lot of thriving businesses up and down Main Street,
Tax-free.
what?
It's not gonna add to the.
Well, no, that's why,
There's a couple of things we put in place.
you have one development agreement that's tax-free.
One development agreement right
And
now
that's-
that's tax-free, but there's also, we put in the caveat that whatever that business sells for, whatever we get the 6%,
Right.
that we put it in an account, and then we can draw on that account
But
per year, so we're not, one time, Angelo, we're guilty. In 2006, we were guilty of it. The 2005 council sold the cell tower up there.
Yep,
And
and we all complain not to.
and trust me, being in the communications business, I said, you're crazy. But, again, we had a shortfall in our budget, and what did we do? We took the 1.1, put it in the budget. so
And
we
I
had no
said,
tax.
you're gonna sell the $1.1 million,
Yep.
you're gonna blow that money, and you're never gonna
But
see
again,
the 400,000
that's why
a
we
year.
put that caveat into place, so that doesn't happen.
That-
Next
that's-
council can't come in and say, well, there's a surplus in there, let's take that and put it to, and Band-Aid our 1-year budget, and then all of a sudden, 2 years, you're trying to figure out where you get the money.
That's one or two projects. But when Stan Tabak came up here, he wanted us to put together an ordinance, which was before my time, so I've never seen it. Not tax free, but
Correct.
give them a scale.
Incentives,
Give
yeah.
them a scale where if it's a smaller business, they get some kind of a smaller incentive. If a huge business is coming in with three
Yeah.
knocking down a block and building something, we can give it a different
Correct.
incentive.
And we're still working on those, so,
Okay.
and that'll be coming before the council.
'Cause
That,
I
it
think
kind of
long-
got sidetracked from that one developer and that
Because I
one
think,
development
because
agreement.
long-term,
It is,
And they did discuss it at the last meeting. They were
Yes,
talking
they
about
did.
tax stabilization and rates and
Are
possibilities.
those, I know we had spoke about recording those meetings, they're still not being recorded, correct? Is there a reason? Because I can't make every one of those meetings, there's
Sure.
only so many, and I'd like to go back and watch some of them. I did talk to John, I did talk to Stan the other day to try to catch up on it, but something like that, could we have it
Absolutely.
recorded?
yeah.
I mean, I know some of them, Johnny Boots can't be at all the meetings filming it, but we can just have it set to film, I mean, somebody doesn't have to be here to film that, right? You can just have it go
Well, they
on
need to be here to run this.
to run that.
So what Marianne's doing is,
Somebody, but anybody could, like,
yeah,
somebody.
they've all been trained on it, so, yeah, they can do it.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, I think it'd be good to look back on everything that's
agree.
going on there.
Yep.
Because I think that's going to be one of the keys. If we can get Arctic thriving again,
You know, we've got the Arctic Playhouse coming in. That could be like a cultural
it's
center.
coming in soon. And,
Restaurants will surround it. Things will start to
but
happen.
I think that this is
it's
like
slow
a
and
very
it'll take
important time when that playhouse opens.
Absolutely.
That's like a valuable asset to tell businesses to get
It's
in
an
here.
attractor.
So I think it's
Absolutely.
something that we really need to get on because I will agree with Angela. It is kicking the can down the road on some levels. We need to do something to get things. But I don't think it's firing police officers, firing firefighters, laying them off. I think it's about bringing more money into the town. That's what I think.
And commitments were made to these people.
And they made
We need to
concessions.
honor our commitments, and we need to move forward in a positive way.
You're gonna swear that you can give them a commitment, you can give them a raise and save
Can't.
their jobs? And
Can't swear to that, but we can at least try.
I've been given a commitment for 11 years. A realistic commitment.
You know, in the end, we've been here 4 months, but it's up to us now. You know what I mean?
That's right.
We can't blame anybody else.
No, it's up to you to bring it up there. It's up to the people to either accept it or knock it down.
It's up to us to educate them on what's going to happen if they
Well-
if they vote it down, though.
I can say, you know, on my behalf, and Jay's attended the meetings, you know, we're going to the Arctic Village meetings, we're going to the Arctic redevelopment meetings. We want to be a part of that. We want to push the town forward. We want to move it in the right direction. You know, we could roll up and just give up, but I'm not ready to do that. I'm just starting.
Nobody said give up. Let's fix it.
Yeah, I just don't think this, you know,
Well,
allowing the
that's-
state to come in is the way to fix it.
Nobody's saying let the state come in.
That's the only
Let's get back to
option.
reality. It's not the only option. That's the mentality that got us into this 5-year plan. And if you're not smart enough to know what you have to do, then you don't belong up here representing your ward. What's that? I didn't hear that.
So to the new 3 council members, how's your first budget season?
It's fine.
It's not as easy as it looks.
Well, I think the toughest part is realizing that there's very little. You have very little wiggle room. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
just got an
it's like
email,
we're trying to-
somebody watching this, just listen. David Goslin, Angelo Padula. I'm working in South County at a house valued at $530,000 with a tax bill of $6,000. My house is $250,000, my taxes are $6,100. What's wrong with this picture? There's one of the businessmen. And you got the same email, so you can see who sent that to you. And I got 5 more.
Difference is, he can't afford the $500,000 house down there. We don't have the beaches, we don't have the growth, we don't have, you know, and you're right, Angelo, when you got every house, I don't care if it's a raised ranch or a shack down on Roy Carpenter's beach. The Roy Carpenter's beach shack is $300,000, they're paying $6,000 a year too. That's not happening here in West Warwick.
Look at the Sunday paper, House of the Week. The houses that look like $1
Angelo,
million,
I'm not arguing that.
$5,000 a year taxes. Just look at the houses. My house is their garage.
Put the beachfront here.
Not
Put
the
the tourists
beachfront.
come to
Don't
West
go
Warwick.
there. Go to
Fill
Westerly.
us up from
Go to
May
South
till
Kingston.
October
Go to
with
North Kingstown.
people from New York, people who this is their second home, maybe their third home. Fill us up here in West Warwick, and we won't have the problems.
You got all the riverfront you want.
Angelo, be serious on that. I mean,
I'm serious. You think you're making a joke out of it.
I'm not.
It's not a joke
It's
anymore.
not a joke.
Because I'm at my wit's end with paying taxes in this town.
Angelo, I'm going to be honest with you. I just said $4,800 to $7,000. I feel for the people. I understand, but at least we have a control over it. Where if the state does come in and
Listen,
anybody
you
who wasn't
people
living.
always trying to
Anybody-
scare the
wait, I'm
people
not scaring anybody.
that the
I lived
state's
it.
coming in.
You lived it. We
Do you ever
both lived
think-
here in
do you ever
'93.
think? Do you ever think? Yeah, you had incompetent help then. You had Mayor O'Hare. What did she want?
I don't care.
Her husband
The
took
state
out
came-
$500,000 out
The
of the town
state came here and did what they
because
wanted
they
to
weren't
do.
competent of doing their
Mayor
own
O'Hare,
job.
wait a minute. Mayor O'Hare said we need a 9%, 10% tax increase. Everybody up here wanted to shoot her. Everybody in the crowd wanted to shoot her. She leaves. The state comes in. Guess what the state did? 10%.
Got it all planned.
Exactly what she said.
But that was a one-time deal.
So if they
That was a one-time
No,
deal.
sir, because we raised taxes again and again.
You know, I'm not going
Angelo,
back then
my
because I can tell
taxes-
you things.
Wait a
What
minute.
went on? Who got rich on this town? Who's still getting rich on this
Angelo,
town?
but again, you're saying that it was a one-time fix. My taxes in '93 were $1,600 and change. When I bought my house, I got my nice little $400 or $300 and change, close to $400 supplemental tax, where I just closed on my house in April of 1993. I closed on it in April.
You know what? I'm just going to do what my constituents in Ward 1 wants me to do. That is to vote against this budget. You can say whatever you want. You can tell the people whatever you want.
Angelo,
Do
Jay
whatever.
hit the nail on the head. You've got to be informative. You just can't tell them, oh, we're going to...
They are informed, right here. They are informed.
Well,
And all the workers.
72 people that contact you on Facebook is not informed.
I'm not talking 72 people. Forget Facebook. That's where you live. I don't
That's
live
not
on
where I
that.
live.
I live in the real world, the business world. Not just one business, but multiple businesses. I know how to subtract and add. I know how to make money and how not to make money. So I wasn't successful by being a dope. And I'll be goddamn if I'm going to give it up.
So that, at the all-day referendum, the people will be informed what their vote means, correct?
No, it just says yes. It just says, I mean, it doesn't have the full budget on
We're-
it.
no,
They have to know
no,
ahead
no.
of time, yeah.
In a nutshell, we're just talking about, will this be in the paper?
Sure.
What this vote means?
Yep.
So they'll understand when they meet, if they vote yes for the budget, it'll mean this. If they vote no
Well,
for the
if-
budget, it may mean that.
Last year, Frank
No.
had a video too. We did a
Yeah.
18-minute video.
I'll do a
You can go
video
on the
again this
website.
year.
They all got
Post
robocalls
it
to
on-
go out and vote.
Yep. But it just says that, please go out to vote for the budget.
So if anybody says that
vote
they're not
at budget
informed,
time.
they're wrong.
And all of us obviously have a voice, whether social
right.
media
You
or
can go
wherever
back
you want
and
to do
watch
to
the
let
archived
anybody
videos
know, or
and-
newspapers or whoever you want to reach out to.
And we usually have an article run around budget time that explains, this is what happens if you vote yes.
Right,
This is what
that,
happens if
yeah,
you
that's
vote
all I'm
no.
asking, yeah.
They'll.
And I'm also going to
they'll
be there to
interview-
tell them what happens in 5 years
And-
if they do
Yeah,
vote
and
yes.
they'll interview everybody.
And how many people showed up last year? About a little under 1,000, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Out of, how many
17,000.
registered voters?
1,200.
Over 17,000.
Registered, yeah, so.
Now, take in consideration, like Bert said the other night, there used to be anywhere between 50 to 500 at the high school. It never, I don't think, the only time I ever seen it exceed over 500 was when they were talking about cutting sports. Other than
But that way,
that's
wasn't, but that wasn't like secret ballot. I mean, you you raised your hand or something, right? It was,
And that's where, and I told you the story the other night, that's why I
Of
agreed
course,
with
yeah.
Angelo when we talked about all-day referendum, because I witnessed intimidation, threats, and everything else, because somebody raised their hand. And, and I looked at that individual as not only a friend, but also a person who cared about the community, that used to come to these meetings all the time. And the first thing that was said to him, because he voted against the school budget, was what they do for his special needs grandchild, and don't expect too much more. I looked at that and I was like, I would have punched that man right in the face, to be honest with you. But that man held back his temper and didn't say nothing and walked away. But I remember it to a T, and Angelo, I think you know who I'm talking about, and I felt bad for that family, because as a businessman himself,
He was beside himself, or he would
a
have.
homeowner in town and been here for many, 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 many years, he had to hear that. And no man and no woman should ever have to hear that. And that's why I agree with the all-day referendum, where they can go in and vote on however they
how long
want.
has the referendum been?
You could come in here and say you support the budget and still vote no. I'll never know. You'll never know unless you tell me.
Why would you lie about it?
I'm just saying.
And
Bert.
one additional point to Councilman Licciardi's question. The 2 days before the all-day vote is the financial town meeting where the public again can come and get information about the budget, get a copy of the budget, hear from the council members as well as from, from Fred or anyone else.
That's here, or that one's done at the high
Last
school,
year's
right?
High
financial
school.
town meeting had less than 100 people.
Yeah, and they didn't ask any questions, so you don't, if
But
they
it's
don't
A
ask
couple
you.
of people
It's an
asked
opportunity
questions.
to
Not
get
many.
more additional
Right,
information about
right.
the budget, what could or could not happen, and ramifications, whatnot.
Bert?
One way of getting the information out to the people, these budget hearings are so important because what you guys decide, that's what it's gonna be. And we're lacking one thing, we don't even have a reporter here, a reporter should be here reporting this stuff, really. And that's the way you get.
She's probably gonna listen to the tape.
Let the people
Yeah,
decide.
she'll listen to
There's
the tape.
nothing in the paper about these meetings.
There was nothing in last time, any budget hearing.
And if you had some news going out, is there anybody here from the public outside of myself?
Rainey? You too. There's,
That's a disgrace.
but you gotta remember, there are also,
Department heads.
well, not just department heads, you got people who are department heads who live in town, and employees who live in town. So they have a double interest.
Okay. Well, thank God it's somebody that's interested.
I can tell you Rose lives in town, Nate lives in town,
No,
Ann lives in town with Rainey.
funny.
I think they still live together, I'm only kidding. Dave Lombari, Chief Barris, and John Botello, so they have joint interest.
But you don't.
And
you
Chief
don't-
McGarrett, I can tell you, has plenty of relatives who still live in this town.
You don't agree with me that we should have a reporter here reporting what's going on?
Bert,
I,
I can't control what they do and what they don't do.
The charter does require that the public hearings are advertised at least two or three times.
Three times.
So it is advertised in the paper, there will be a public hearing on the budget. So they are advertised, the workshops, I believe,
yeah,
may
but
also be
at the public
advertised.
hearing,
Yeah.
nobody can do anything. By that time, it's all set.
No, financial town meeting, you're right. But
Financial
public
town-
hearings, they can
And-
make a
Yeah,
difference.
public hearings in places like this,
Right.
you can. But when the council approves this on Tuesday, right, and then they have a meeting, there's nothing anybody can do about it. I mean, there's nothing, it's
You're right.
done.
You're right, but at that point, there's already been at least 2 or 3 workshops, 2 or 3
Bert, I
public
can't
hearings.
go to people's houses and force them. I can't go to knock on doors and make them come here. You really can't. You advertise it, you send it out, it's out on Facebook, it's out on the town website, it's out on, people talk, they tell each other what's going on. Angela knows there's people here watching, they're messaging them right now. We don't know how many people are at home watching this, we really don't. I wish there was a way we could actually see how many people are clicking
Yeah.
to the website, or views, how many views at that time. And I gotta say, and Angelo and I have been doing this going on 11 years, it's our 11th budget. And yes, we do get passionate, in our beliefs. And Angelo, I know your feelings for this town, and I know you have generations. I'm the 5th generation myself. We all have our feelings for this town. I want my kids to be here, I want their kids to be here. I don't plan on leaving here, I hope, ever. I do, I love my community. I get very involved in sports around here, and whatever else I have time for. And I agree, I know you did in the past with softball and
30 years.
everything. I know we're passionate, we say things to each other, sometimes we don't even mean, we just get heated up and passionate. I understand what you're saying, we have to do what's right for the town, and we have to do what's right for the people of this town, whether it's employees or the people who live here and pay taxes.
And obviously, different people are going to have different views of what that is. But the main thing is that voters get educated about as much as they can about the facts of the budget, draw their own conclusion, whatever that is, and get out and vote, because that's
You
the
can't
only way.
educate them in a day.
No.
They have to be following this to know what's going on. They have to know what transpired for the 5-year plan.
Yep.
What's the outcome of the 5-year plan? They explain it to me. How can I explain it to you? I just got one constituent now. Explain it to me. How can I explain it to you when you just come in on a conversation
Right.
that's been happening for 11 years?
No, it's true. But we tell people, I tell people when I do the video, we tell them all the time, if anybody wants to come in and ask any questions about the budget, we're always there to answer those questions. And again, I don't tell people, residents, vote yes, vote no. I say vote. That's all. It's up to them to draw their conclusions. If they have a specific question, I'll answer it to the best of my ability. But they'll also ask their council members, and they'll ask
I think
others.
for a lot of them, it's just confusion. It's cumbersome looking at the entire list.
Oh,
So if you don't know,
absolutely.
and you get this list, it's just like reading like hieroglyphics.
Once it's set too, we'll also put it up on transparency portal so people can see it graphically.
But I think the reason I liked your video last year is because transparency is all right. Like if I put like an advanced calculus problem on the board, it's transparency. But if I don't know what the hell it is, then it doesn't
Sure.
make a difference. I think it's important for us to explain to them
In simple terms.
in simple terms. I mean,
Absolutely.
kind of the Cliff Notes version of what's going on, and they can make up their decisions however they feel.
Absolutely.
I mean, most people, and I can only speak for the people that I talk to in my neighborhoods, they have a pretty good understanding that taxes will probably go up somewhat each year just to pay for services. You know, if you tell them something to the effect of, you know, based on a 1.83 tax increase on a $200,000 house, it might cost you $100 to $125 more a year, whatever the math is, and you break it down to $10 to $12 a month, they don't see it as that big of a deal. I'm not trying to minimize a tax increase, but when you put it in simple form, then it starts to make sense. You know, yeah, I'd be willing to pay $10 to $12 more a month to continue with services.
Are you telling them that's forever?
No.
No, that's
No,
right.
No, and I don't think they're stupid. I don't think.
And every
they
year,
think
every year
that
they
it's-
have another opportunity to
Yeah,
determine what they want to do.
You know,
They can vote it down anytime they want. But again, you know, and I, you know, Angela, like we said, if it comes back and gets voted down, we have to cut, okay? That's what we'd have to ask our constituents. Where do you want us to cut? Do you want us to get rid of trash pickup? I mean.
Or do you realize that the morale issue where that happens and how bad things will
No,
be?
but again, take a look at this, right? You say, okay, I could save $450,000 by not picking up trash, but you now as a homeowner has to deliver it to somewhere on Saturday morning. Not everybody's gonna be able to do that, so you know what our streets are gonna look like? 10 times worse than what they are now. They're just gonna throw it on the street. Wasn't there a year they did throw it on the street way back when? They just said the hell with it, and they threw it on the street because they didn't feel like picking it up or something? You know, we don't need that in this town. We're trying
Or
to
it could
clean
be no loss of services.
No, it could be no loss, but again, okay.
You know, you
I wanna
can't
get
threaten
rid
the
of-
people and say, we're
but-
gonna get rid of trash.
But Angela, I'm not saying that.
Maybe
I'm
you're
saying
gonna get rid of a department
There
that you
could
would
be-
never, not even notice.
There could be three people up here, Angelo. You and I could be on
What
the
de-
same
what
page.
department what department could we
They
get
say
rid of
we
that
wanna
people wouldn't
get rid of
notice?
5 police officers.
Well, you're smart enough, you should realize.
Which
what-
department we're
what's
gonna
a
get-
waste and what's not.
So tell me, which department
You're
would
a
we get rid of that we
councilman, I
wouldn't?
know which ones I would get rid of.
All right.
I'm not telling you that.
Okay.
That's my true experience.
Okay.
You find that out yourself.
Okay.
When it comes down to nitty gritty though, I'll show you on black and white.
I guess we'll get. Yeah. If it
So
gets to
you
that
should
point.
do it too.
All right. I'll
Don't let me tell you what to
do
do.
some research tonight.
Be smart enough to do it yourself.
And again, any council member up here, 3 of yous figure out if we have to cut a budget. I don't care. Angela and I could be 100% agreeing with each other today. Sun shines out, 80 degrees. The 3 of you could sit there and say we want to get rid of 5 policemen, 5 firemen. Angela and I could vote no. You 3 vote yes. Guess what? That's what happens.
But at
Oh, but-
election time, you'll see the true reason.
But I'm just saying, you know, if it goes down and we have to make that $2 million cut, $2.5 million, because you're talking, how much in new revenue? Not 1.1.
This comes out to
1.1.
1.1, 1.2 additional.
So-
But keep in mind, that's to cover the pension obligation, or the pension recommended contribution for next year, and all the other medical costs and things like that, that we have no control over as of this moment.
You see how hard it is to cut $700,000 out of here the other night? $700,000.
a lot of stuff that hasn't happened,
So
but a lot of stuff.
add- but wait a minute, that's a lot of stuff that didn't happen.
Yeah.
the
No.
easy
You're right.
parts.
Yes.
Now, if it gets voted down, you have to figure out where to get about $1.9 million. Get right back to the drawing board wanting it, and writing it all down and figuring it out and where it goes. And that's gonna be on the backs of the employees. Whatever positions or departments or waste it may be, it ultimately is gonna be on the backs of the employees.
We can go on and on about this.
What's
all night.
going on with
It's
the
gonna be vote that
recertification of
decides all that.
pensions? Disability pensions, nothing. 5 years I've been complaining. What do I have to do? I gotta call Channel 12 News and say, I wanna know why, me and you both want it, how come they never got recertified? Why? Why can't we bring them back? Let them tell us what the weather is every 15 minutes. They call every councilman. They're on the payroll. Call me up every 15 minutes. Tell me what the weather's gonna be. Get them back in the room. Sit there 8 hours. We're paying them. They're in better health than I am, some of them.
I can agree with some of that, Angelo, but you also
You can
gotta-
agree with none of it or all of it.
Well, listen to me. Look at it in the other aspect of it. You got somebody on light duty here answering phones, doing whatever it may be. All of a sudden, you have them out doing something else that they can probably be capable of doing on light duty. But then you have the grievance side of the house that we have to deal with every single time. I don't know how many times, I don't know how many grievances we had this year, but every time we do something, we get a grievance. And, you know, what's that cost? And what people don't realize, those legal fees go up, that hurts us. Time of the manager's time itself, there's a value and a cost to everything.
Once you set a precedent, then that cost ends. When you keep conducting business as always, that cost never ends. So you determine whether you want to spend, whether it's $1 million now or 20 million down the road. You make your choice. I'm a businessman, spend $1 million now, because I'm gonna save 9.
I agree. I know I personally know of 1 or 2 individuals that are on disability and working state jobs or whatever it may be.
1 or 2?
Or working in other states as the same job they were here. So I agree with the recertification.
Why can't we get it done? Why?
We'd have to really push the pension board to.
Push the pension board. Maybe we ought to fire every one of them and go and do it ourselves, because we can't get anything done. What do we have to do to get them to recertify? What?
I sat here when up at that podium.
You're the president. I know what I do. I direct them to have a recertification immediately. Immediately. But that's me. You're the president.
I don't act on my own. I'm still.
You got my backing, and I'm sure you probably have the rest of the backing.
So what does that do for the budget right now?
I'm just saying,
Okay.
it's gonna be a part of it. We have to start somewhere. That's a big part of it. That's where our problems are, with the pensions. If it wasn't for the pensions, we'd be golden.
Well, it'd be $10 million richer a year.
Thank you.
Well, maybe 8. You have to still deposit something.
I know when I was on the pension board for 10 years, we always looked into recertification.
Why did it
We
never
had to
happen?
have 3 different doctors certified.
They still do that
They
now.
still do that.
Yeah.
They still do 3 doctors certified, but
You have to.
But we never go back and recertify them.
Once a year, that's what we used to do when I was on the pension board. And we did it diligently. And I think Angelo is right. I think that the council got a resolution together saying that the President, David Goslin, go to the pension board, go to the forum of the pension board and demand that they start recertifying these people. I mean, it's a start anyways. But I think the whole council has to get together with.
Our own employees are asking daily, why aren't they recertified? They're taking their money. If you deserve the pension, you deserve it. That's what it's there for. It's not there as Santa Claus, which they're doing. They're taking advantage of it. For every person that needs it, and it seems like the person that needs it is the one that can't get it. The one that don't deserve it has got it. $6,000 a month. Their kids go to school for free. Health insurance for their family. Come on. That's what's gonna go out in the news. Then I'll bet you we get recertify them.
there was, just to go over that $600, and I know it's, I don't even want to get into it, but there's a $600 stipend increase under,
Tax assessor's office.
assessor's office. That's for the, what's his name? I don't know his name. What's his position?
He's the, I'm gonna get the,
The what?
Tony?
hold on. I'll get you the official title here.
What's his title? I can't hear him.
Personal property appraiser.
Personal property.
Appraiser.
Appraiser.
Yep.
They were looking for a $600 increase. I agree with Fred came to me, pointed that out, just to be equal across the board. I don't think he should get that increase also.
It's only $600. I know, it's not a lot of money, but we've been pretty consistent
Nobody else
about
has.
not giving anyone else increases, so
with
just
that.
to be,
I mean, $600 is.
No, it don't matter if it's
Consistent.
60. You
I
give to
agree.
one, you give to them all.
Yep, no.
so we'll strike 600.
We always been
from that.
across the board with that.
Yep.
from the professional services for the tax assessor?
No, I just forgot.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything to talk about in this budget? Anybody from the public? Bert?
On the sewer department, last year, they built duplexes where one pipe went in for your water.
We talked about that earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
When did you talk about that? Because I was there for all of them.
We just talked about it tonight.
Tonight.
I brought up the sewer, I brought up the sewer department and the increase of last year of multifamily homes in like Clyde Towers, where they got a hit for
Going
100,
back the way it used to be,
as it stands right now, no.
Yeah, and plus that'll be a different, that's a
It's a
separate
totally
public
different
hearing.
so
'Cause-
in other words, the duplex is gonna pay, water comes in, and then they're gonna build both of those.
They're gonna pay exactly what they paid last year.
And that was the first time they ever did that.
Correct, but now they're also doing it, the only difference is this year in the sewer budget, which you'll see next meeting for the sewer commission, is you will see that we've also extended that regionally. So all the regional communities will have the same minimum
Because
usage.
They didn't last year.
Correct.
It was only Coventry.
It was just us, actually,
Just West
last
Warwick.
year. And so now we've extended it to all of them. But
And
we've
they're all
also,
gonna pay the same thing?
yep, and we've also equalized the rates. So everybody will be paying the same rates and have the same minimum regardless of town.
So that's gonna be a big, big increase in revenue.
No,
It's enough to cover the increase in expenses for this year, so we
we
won't have
host
to
them,
do a
so
rate
they're gonna
increase.
pay,
Yeah,
they're gonna pay for it.
it's enough that we won't have to do a rate increase to cover the expenses for the coming budget. You'll see it all,
They're gonna pay the increase.
yeah, they'll pay the increase.
So it comes from the increase.
Because we are hosting them. We have to put up with the smell, we have to put up with the aggravation, so why should they get the same thing that we get, which isn't,
So Warwick is gonna be charged?
well, some part of Warwick, we don't have a lot of Warwick.
Whatever.
and
buildings-
Coventry's a big part of us,
Coventry, East Greenwich,
West Greenwich?
West Greenwich,
Yeah,
so they're all gonna become a part of that.
yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none.
motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you and have a happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah, happy Easter, everyone.
But make sure you come on out to the Easter egg hunt this Sunday. Saturday
Saturday.
Saturday at 9.
Coventry's is Sunday. Go to Coventry on Sunday, right?
I saw on the news a place that they drop the eggs from a helicopter.
They do it every year. They do.